Hi everyone, Josh Olfert back with another video, and today I want to talk with you guys about what millionaires do differently. Over the course of my life, I've become friends with millionaires, I've worked with millionaires, and it might not be exactly what you think. So it's time to think like an investor. So, millionaires. We probably think of the Harvey Specter, the Ari Gold, the AirPods in all the time, driving around in your Land Rover, running around downtown with papers flying everywhere, you're talking to 20 people at once, you got business deals, you're developing this property, all this sorts of stuff. In my experience, millionaires are nothing like that. Actually, they kind of are, because we have these things called 60K millionaires. It's people who make 60 grand and act like they're millionaires. That's the image of the person running around frantically trying to get deals done, all this sort of stuff. It's the person who feels like they aren't yet a millionaire and wants to act like one. And trust me, the reason I know this is true is because I've been that before. I was there. So all of this to say, I've had the unique privilege of being around people who have done very well financially, whether it's through their investments or their business, or they started with a passion or a side hustle that exploded and turned into something huge. Now, what you find is that there are really two types, in my opinion. There's two types of millionaires. There's the traditional type of millionaire, which, achieves what they achieve through non-spectacular means, through just being prudent and doing that for a long period of time. And then there are millionaires who are the people we see in the magazines, the people we see who are publicized, the people who you read about online who have these crazy businesses or these startups that got massive funding or these projects that made a ton of money. There's really these two types. So first, let's talk about these traditional non-spectacular millionaires. And here's a really fascinating stat that's gonna illustrate my point. The average millionaire took 32 and a half years to accumulate their $1 million. So first of all, that's very different than the image we imagine. We imagine, the young person in the metro area driving a really nice car, that sort of thing. This isn't what I see. This isn't the people I kind of meet who are millionaires. That's just not how it happens. I mean, those do happen, but they're few and far between. Most millionaires are people who have just really not screwed up terribly. Screwing up terribly can set you back really far, whether it's, having a major career, issue or problem, or maybe having a massive relationship breakdown, or maybe failing to ever think about your future or save money. The kinds of millionaires that are the most common are the millionaires that you would never imagine or expect are millionaires. It's this cliche story of, I'm sitting in my office and some prospect or client rolls up and you see the vehicle and you're like, oh man, this person doesn't look like they're in a great spot. They're driving the rusted out truck. And then they come in and you have a talk with them and they're the most down-to-earth person. They're just great people and they have well in excess of $1 million saved. And it's just mind-boggling. The traditional kind of millionaires are the people who just, in some cliche sense, lived the American dream. They started young and they worked really hard, and they got equity in a home. They purchased an asset that could go up in value, and they paid that off. And throughout the course of their life, maybe they took 5 or 10% of their income every single month, every single year, and they put that away into investments, into other people's businesses, into places where their money could compound. And maybe they had, a traditional 30 to 40 year career at one company. And we would think of them as, a boring career where they worked at some certain job and contributed to the pension, and next thing you know, from 25 to their late 50s, they accumulated enough that they are now millionaires. And this isn't all that uncommon. In my business, there are literally hundreds of people who do what I do in every city, and they're all going after millionaires, and they all have hundreds of clients. So if there's hundreds of people like me serving hundreds of millionaires in every city, there are a lot of these people who are financially secure. They've done the right thing with their money. They've accumulated capital over the course of their life, but maybe they don't flaunt it. Maybe they don't have a flashy story. Maybe they don't have news headlines about them. And I think that is really the beautiful thing that separates Western society or our economy from, economies of the past or even of the present in different places, is that anybody, if they have the desire or the willingness, which you don't have to have, but if you have the desire or the willingness to build wealth in North America, You can do that. You can decide to work hard and invest and to grow a portfolio. Those are all things that are completely within reach. But now there's the spectacular millionaires. These are the kinds that we hear about. We hear about in, whether it's the movies or the headlines or, the Mark Zuckerbergs. I mean, that's billionaire level. But people who built a business that really just took off and for some reason or another had a massive impact in an industry, and they get attention. And these are the kinds of people who put in the hours. They created something that was going to save time and build convenience for an entire industry or an entire group of people. Now, you can imagine there's these two types of millionaires. We can choose to go traditional if we want. We can choose to go with the spectacular route, which doesn't have to be spectacular. The real division here is that one went out as a lone wolf and created their own venture, and one kind of built their wealth within the system, within the constraints of daily living, within a reasonable life. And I think there are a lot of factors that link these two together. There's a lot of different habits. There's a lot of different actions that these two groups take, even though they're very different, to create that. The first thing that both of these groups do is they produce more than they consume. Now, this is an interesting concept because we literally live in a system, in an economy, where we have people who are both producers and consumers. We consume by buying products, we consume the media, we consume all sorts of things, but we're also producers. When you go to work, you produce, right? You're producing a good or service, or you're somewhere in the chain of production, right? The reason that people become millionaires, whether it's, the spectacular way or the traditional way, is because they have a net surplus. They have a net positive amount of the amount they produce versus the amount they consume. You see, if you're somebody who's not really working all that much and you're not really providing value, you're not really going out and earning a ton of money, and you're consuming a bunch, you're spending a lot of money, you can see how there's never really a net balance. There's never really a net positive that flows to you from that. So I think the first things first, millionaires produce more than they consume. And the people who produce a ton, let's say a certain online retailer that sells to everybody in the entire world for way less and ships to you overnight, the founder of that company, Amazon, ends up making a ton because he is obviously producing a lot of value for a massive amount of people. Now, the second thing is a concept I learned from a brilliant thinker who I am kind of in love with in a weird way, Naval Ravikant. He comes up with this idea called an aspirational hourly rate. And what this means is, come up in your mind with an idea of an hourly rate that would satisfy you. Most people go to work and they'll earn $20 an hour, $30 an hour. What if in your mind, you could set an aspirational hourly rate? I wanna make $200 an hour. And then your goal becomes, if you are ever doing work that is below $200 an hour in value, delegate it. Have someone else do that, because you need to be putting yourself in positions if you want to become a millionaire, whether the traditional way or the spectacular way, whatever it might be. You need to be a person who delegates work that is below your aspirational hourly rate. If there's some sort of work that you do, there's some sort of venture you're in where for every hour you put in, you can get out 200, invest all your time there and delegate all the activities that are below that hourly rate. And this is the thing. Millionaires think much more in terms of time. They're not thinking in terms of, how much am I gonna earn this year? Or, how much am I gonna earn from this project? It's more of how much time am I going to have to invest to get a certain level of output? Because if I have to invest 30 hours to get $1,000, why wouldn't I go to a project where I can invest 3 hours and get $1,000? It's this focus on how much time am I trading for the benefit versus this idea of, well, how much money am I getting in aggregate? And last thing, and I harp on this a lot, I talk about it a lot because it's just so true. Millionaires acquire assets. I think a lot of people think about finance and money, and the first thing they think about when we talk about what is it to have a good financial picture, they think about income. How much income am I earning? But at the end of the day, your income, let's say you're working for traditional employer, isn't gonna go up more than 5 or 6% a year if you're lucky, maybe only in pace with inflation. It is the idea of owning assets that appreciate in value, whether that's real estate or shares of companies or some sort of business you start. That is where millionaires are focused. You know, when I meet with these people, when I discuss with these people, income is kind of a secondary thing. The assets they're buying, the projects they're getting themselves involved in where they have equity that can grow, that is the real talking point. That is the real area of interest for them. So anyways, guys, those are the 3 main things I see when I'm speaking with different clients or meeting different people who have had a ton of financial success. And I hope you've learned something from one of those 3 ideas. Now, if you guys like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications for more videos just like this one every single week. Until next time.